without lettuce.
Do you know how much the original artwork for Metallica's Master of Puppets is worth? Why did someone throw a sandwich at guitarist Kirk Hammet? Who was the one-armed man that drummer Lars Ulrich called to borrow something he probably wouldn't be using anymore? Stick around as we answer these questions and more on 10 Fun Facts About Master of Puppets by Metallica. Number 1. The freaks come out at night. If it's true that the freaks come out at night, then I consider Metallica to be quite freaky. Now, it's not at all uncommon for musical performers to be nocturnal creatures. After all, they stay up late doing their job entertaining us during our non-working hours. Quite often, they have to spend their own late-night hours packing things up and getting back on the road, headed to their next tour destination. It is also not uncommon for a band to spend their late-night hours drinking and enjoying their time off. Especially a band like Metallica, a band so well known for their excessive drinking that venues often knew to stock their bars in advance of Metallica's performances, as a band would typically drink themselves into a festive mood before going on stage. So why not carry those same hours and routines while working in the studio? Well, that's exactly what Metallica did, opting to record Master of Puppets at Sweet Silence Studios in Copenhagen, Denmark, where the band began work each day at 7 p.m. Now, those who live in or have been to Denmark know just how dark things can get in the fall months, with members of the band waking up in the afternoon to begin what is essentially a graveyard shift. I mean, hey, a graveyard shift of recording music is still a graveyard shift, right? Even if it doesn't crush a person's soul in the way of working in an office does. The members of Metallica must have grown quite pale, as their exposure to the sun was minimal. With all this darkness, perhaps Master of Puppets should have been called the Black Album.
Boo this man!
No, I take that back. It's just fine as it is. Drummer Lars Ulrich told Revolver what the process was like. We worked at night, so for 3 months, I don't think we saw daylight. This was like September, October, November, December. So in Denmark, if you wake up at 4 in the afternoon, it's already dark. So we'd wake up, and then we'd go down in the studio and start at 7. And then we'd work until 5 or 6 in the morning, then go back to the hotel and do the breakfast buffet. And then we would go to bed. So we never saw any daylight for the whole time, and my main recollection is just how dark it was. But the main thing about Master of Puppets, compared to Ride the Lightning, is that we had more time to make it. We were originally going to record in Los Angeles, but our management had figured out that, with the way the currency was, we could get 12 or 14 weeks of studio time in Denmark, instead of 8 weeks in LA. And that was important because, at that time, the big thing that was driving the records was sonics. You needed more time to get the big drum sounds. It was the time of Pyromania and Back in Black, and it was all about how big the kick drum sounded. So it was important to have more time in the studio, and that's why we were in Denmark. Number 2. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. Have you ever heard your father or grandfather say, "If it ain't broke, don't fix it"? Well, Metallica adopted this philosophy when recording Master of Puppets, opting to return to the same studio in Denmark to work with producer Flemming Rasmussen, the same producer who recorded their previous album, Ride the Lightning. As drummer Lars Ulrich explains, "We were fiercely anti-producer. We didn't want a producer coming in and messing with our song, or telling James to sing harmony vocals or anything like that. Flemming was there to help with the sonics. The songs pretty much remained the way we wrote them. If you listen to the demos, we didn't rearrange them or anything like that. It was just about the sonics. Nowadays, when we make records, it's about trying to make it sound as lively as possible, and as full of spunk and vibe. Back then, it was all about getting it tight. So much time was spent trying to make everything super tight, to the point of being completely anal. When I hear the record now, it sounds a little too tight. and it sounds like the master tapes got left in a reverb tank for too long. But that's the way it sounded at that time, and I wouldn't change anything. Fleming was happy to work with the band again, as he quite enjoyed their previous collaboration. He also got to witness the band's growth between the two albums, watching Metallica go from a band of couch crashers to a band who could now afford their own hotel room. As he told Metal Hammer, they had matured quite a bit, and their circumstances were improved. This time they had hotel rooms, rather than sleeping on a friend's floor, but they were just as likable. Every day they would have dinner with my wife and myself at our house before we started recording at 7 p.m., and they were always fun to have around. There was so much more they could do now because their craftsmanship had improved. Everything was a notch up. We had more time to finesse subtle things, little details you can hear with headphones. Master of Puppets is superb, maybe their masterpiece. I've turned down so many bands over the years who thought they'd automatically get their own master just by working with me. Not every band can be Metallica. Metallica enjoyed working with Fleming so much that they tried to get him to work on a third album with them when they were looking to record And Justice for All. However, this time they were rejected. When asked if it was true that he turned down Metallica, Fleming explained, "Yes, but it was a timing thing. Lars called me in November '87 and said, 'We've booked a studio from January 1st. We're doing a new album and we want you to produce it.' I said, 'Lars, I can't. I'm busy until April.' And he was like, 'No, you have to come. We've booked the studio. Move everything else.' I said, 'I can't, Lars, no.' So they started with Mike Klink instead, and then begged me to come over when it was obvious that wasn't working."
What do you say? Come on! Come on! Oh, come on!
Number 3. You won't be needing this. Meet Rick Allen, drummer for Def Leppard. Some would argue that he is one of the greatest rock and roll drummers of all time. A strong argument, considering the man only has one arm, his right arm. Metallica drummer Lars Ulrich was seeking a specific snare drum sound for the recording of Master of Puppets, the kind of sound that comes only from a Ludwig Black Beauty snare drum. The only person he knew of that owned one was Rick Allen, who at the time was still recovering from the car accident which took his left arm. Suddenly, a light bulb popped up over Lars's head. Album producer Flemming Rasmussen told Rolling Stone about the phone call Lars made to Rick's manager. So Lars called their manager and said, "Hey, Rick's not using the snare right now. Can you send it over?" The next day it was there. They just overnighted it. Then, on one of his days off, he went to some music shops in Denmark and found one that had been sitting on a shelf for like 10 years, and it cost the 1976 price. Now he's got like 20 of them. Hey man, since you won't be using that blue lightsaber anymore, do you think I could borrow it? No! Number 4. Inspiration. Metallica's Master of Puppets is often described as a masterpiece. The band may or may not agree with this statement, but what they can agree on is that they are often asked what they were listening to at the time of recording the album. What inspired them to create a piece of work that has, in turn, inspired a lot of other musicians. As guitarist Kirk Hammet told an interviewer, "There was no precedent for Master of Puppets. So in summer of 1985, when these songs were coming together, it was as if we were being visited by beings from another planet. That's what these songs felt like. They were so unique and so individual. No one had ever heard anything like this before that. We kind of knew, once we got the group of songs together, that we had a pretty strong pile of material to record. We were listening to a lot of the Misfits, a lot of Discharge, GBH. Cliff was listening to a lot of Velvet Underground, Lynyrd Skynyrd, Bach, and Stevie Ray Vaughan. He was really into Stevie when Stevie first showed up. He thought Stevie was a great player. I was listening to all that stuff, plus all the stuff I usually listen to, all the German bands that I liked, and 70s hard rock, and the new wave of British heavy metal. Oh yeah, and a lot of Kate Bush too. We discovered Kate Bush around that time, and we loved the Police. We listened to the Police all the time, because Cliff was a big fan of Stuart Copeland's drumming, and he loved the sound of his snare. He'd say, "Oh, I love that snare." Drummer Lars Ulrich would also explain, "It's funny, when we did Death Magnetic, Rick Rubin asked the exact same question. What were you listening to when you were writing Master of Puppets?" And I can't tell you exactly what we were listening to, but I can tell you that most of the stuff that was still inspirational to us at that time is the stuff that we've talked 1,000 times about. The new wave of British heavy metal, the Iron Maidens, the Thin Lizzies, the Motorheads. And then, as we were going through the 80s, everybody's horizons were expanding. We were starting to get into stuff like the Police and U2. I remember was this Yes album called 90125, and that was a great record. I can't tell you that we sat there listening to that record and then went out to the garage and started writing Master of Puppets, but it was part of that era. Cliff Burton, especially, brought a lot of new things that expanded our musical outlook. We were getting into ZZ Top for the first time, getting into the Misfits, and even finally appreciating Simon and Garfunkel for their amazing songwriting and harmony. So it was a period of pretty serious expansion. On the first two records, we were just listening to Diamond Head and Motorhead and Iron Maiden, and that was it. Number 5. Puppet Masters. Master of Puppets, I'm pulling your strings, twisting your mind and smashing your dreams. Master of Puppets is one of Metallica's biggest songs. Many people would argue it's their best song of all time. But have you ever wondered what the song means? When I was quite young, I remember a block of cement near a corner in my neighborhood which had the words Master of Puppets etched into the sidewalk. I always figured this Master of Puppets was a character from a horror movie. Perhaps it was some demented version of Pinocchio, or maybe they were simply singing a song about Jim Henson. I mean, he was undoubtedly a master of puppets, right? I mean, I thought that was the whole reason that he decided to put the letter M at the beginning of the word puppets. He's like,
"Haha, I'm the master of puppets, and these are my Muppets."
Well, I'm afraid the inspiration for the song is a tad more sinister, as the song describes drug addiction. James Hetfield wrote the song after attending a party in San Francisco, where he witnessed some things that he would rather have not seen. As he told Rolling Stone, "I just went to this party in San Francisco and there were a bunch of sick freaks shooting up, and it made me sick. It's not about any drug in general, but people being controlled by drugs and not the other way around."
Does anybody want to suck by a towel?
While the inspiration for the song is fairly dark, James Hetfield was able to use the moment as a beacon of light to warn others. A light that would shine far and wide, as the song would go down as number 2 in Rolling Stone's 100 Greatest Heavy Metal Songs of All Time. Second only behind Black Sabbath's Black Sabbath. While the lyrics are definitely memorable, many people credit the amazing guitar work for the success of the song. Former Metallica guitarist Dave Mustaine told Songfacts about the time he witnessed Lars Ulrich and James Hetfield create the song's iconic riff. "I watched him on a piece of shit acoustic guitar write the opening riff. You know what that was? It was a guy with a guitar that doesn't know how to play. It wasn't anything really mind-blowing by any means. The way James played it made it mind-blowing." The song quickly became bassist Cliff Burton's favorite from the band's catalog, as he explained in a 1986 interview, "My favorite song is Master of Puppets. I think it's the best Metallica song yet." Some people describe the ebb and flow of the pacing in the song to describe the cycle of a drug addict. The song begins aggressive and frantic, like a drug addict seeking their next fix. Partway through the song, the listener descends into a beautiful lullaby of guitar solos, which might mimic the high portion of the drug cycle, before crashing back down in a frenetic energy as the so-called master regains control of his puppet. Producer Flemming Rasmussen allegedly asked the band to tune their guitars lower than usual for the song so that it could be sped up in the mixing process, which was all done on tapes back in the mid-80s. That one took some time. There are a lot of different parts and melodies, but it's a primo song. We banged it out a couple times and decided on the one with the best feeling, because they'd have to play it live.
Now without lettuce.
Number 6. Welcome Back. How many songs re-enter the Billboard charts over 30 years after their initial release? Well, not many. A unique honor for Metallica's hit song Master of Puppets, which regained popularity following its inclusion in a scene from the season 4 finale of the popular Netflix series Stranger Things. The series was known for using popular music from the 80s to match the time period in which the show takes place. The show's producers, Matt and Ross Duffer, collectively known as the Duffer Brothers, wrote the song into the show's script as they felt the song was a must-have to help illustrate their vision. As the show's music supervisor, Nora Felder, explains, "It was another one of those 'it has to be this song' moments. This part of the story was anticipated to be a pivotal and especially hair-raising scene. I believe the Duffer Brothers felt that playing Master of Puppets throughout the extended scene was the clear choice. No other song was discussed further, and we jumped in to clear it straight away. I got in touch with Metallica's management office and carefully went over the scene and what the intent would be. I knew the clearance would be taken seriously as we had used one of their songs in season 2, and had learned at that time that they were fans of the show. Master of Puppets is a pretty significant song in their catalog, and I think it's considered a favorite in their live shows. I wanted to be respectful in making sure that Metallica fully understood what context the song was being used in, plus how integral it was to the scene and for this exciting new character, Eddie Munson, who no one had met yet in previous seasons." I mean, yeah, I guess I could see where something like Benny Hill theme music would not be appropriate for this particular scenario. The producers felt the scene shared similarities with Master of Puppets, as the scene depicts a group of teenagers taking a stand against Vecna, the antagonist of Stranger Things Season 4. As Felder further explains, they share similarities in that they each have life-destroying powers that rob people of their essential personal powers. The aggressive, up-tempo metal sound belies its cautionary psychological and socially conscious lyrics, which are rooted in sensitive concern for others. Okay, whatever that means. It sounds like someone enjoys the corporate word salad, but I think I agree with what she's trying to say. Metallica rocks! And apparently Joseph Quinn rocks too, as the actor actually played the opening riffs to the song as shown in the scene. As Nora would add, yes, Joseph did take time to learn the guitar riff and was actually playing along to a guide track. Everyone thought he did a great job. Number 7. Stolen Guitar Riff. Is Megadeth guitarist Dave Mustaine the Goblin King? Okay, hear me out. David Bowie starred in the 1986 film The Labyrinth, in which he steals a baby and taunts a young girl to get it back. He also wrote the song Ziggy Stardust, which includes the lyrics, "Making love with his ego, Ziggy sucked up into his mind, like a leper messiah." Metallica took inspiration from David Bowie and named a song on Master of Puppets, Leper Messiah. Guitarist Dave Mustaine, who was kicked out of Metallica in 1983, would accuse Metallica of stealing some of his riffs on the song. He would also claim that drummer Lars Ulrich taunted him about the stolen riffs. Okay, well maybe that would make Lars the Goblin King. Or maybe I just wanted an excuse to do this. In any case, the former Metallica guitarist did indeed accuse his ex-bandmates of stealing some of his music, as he told Ultimate Guitar, I heard part of my stuff in Leper Messiah from the Master of Puppets album. I asked Lars about that, and they were saying that that was stuff that was written while I was in Metallica for Metallica music. I get paid for it. I didn't get paid for Leper Messiah. I said, Lars, you're ripping me off. And he goes, yeah, I did it pretty well, huh? Guitarist Kirk Hammet would go on to deny any such allegations. As he explains, even though Dave might claim that he wrote Leper Messiah, he didn't. There's maybe a chord progression that was in that song, like maybe 10 seconds that came from him, that ironically is just before the guitar solo. But he did not write Leper Messiah at all. In fact, I remember being in the room when Lars came up with the main musical motif.
We really both did come up with it.
You know what? I believe you.
You do?
Yes, I believe that you believe you helped write that. That's how people like you work. Your ego is so out of whack that it will do whatever it can to protect itself. And people with a messed up ego can do these mental gymnastics to convince themselves they're awesome when really they're just douchebags.
Number 8, Burp. Behind the cover. Some people say a picture is worth 1,000 words. In the case of Metallica's album cover for Master of Puppets, a picture is worth, about $1,000. Not bad for a foreboding image depicting a row of tombstones with strings attached to a pair of red puppet master's hands in the sky. Artist Don Brodigam created the acrylic image using a combination of paintbrush and airbrush in just 3 days, while juggling other projects at the same time. Don was so overwhelmed with painting projects that he didn't even have time to listen to the album. In fact, he had never even heard a single Metallica song at the time he created the painting. Don has expressed sincere gratitude over his collaboration with Metallica in the years since the album's release. As he explains, when you had as many top-end jobs coming in as I did, you're forced to work at a grueling rate, but are still expected to produce nothing but the best artwork. It leaves a warm feeling in my heart to see the artwork that I did over 20 years ago plastered on t-shirts and posters all over the world. I hope it has something to do with the painting and not just the popularity of the band. Many people have speculated that the song Disposable Heroes was the inspiration for the soldier's helmet hanging on one of the tombstones. Perhaps the artist had a look at the track listing, or maybe it was just a coincidence. In any case, Don Brodigam would unfortunately pass away on November 24th, 2008. The original Master of Puppets artwork was auctioned off 10 months later by Christie's auction house at Rockefeller Plaza in New York City. The final price, including buyer's fees, was $35,000. I like to imagine that the Master of Puppets painting now hangs somewhere in a rich grandpa's mansion where it frightens young children or people who believe in ghosts. Bonus: a not-so-fun fact. On September 27, 1986, the music world was struck with tragedy when Metallica's talented bassist, Cliff Burton, lost his life in a horrific accident at the young age of 24. The incident occurred while the band was on tour in Sweden, promoting their third studio album, Master of Puppets. Cliff Burton was asleep in a bunk location he specifically chose for himself by winning a contest to see who got to sleep in the bunk. Cliff Burton randomly pulled an ace of spades from a deck of cards, winning his preferred choice, to which Kirk said, "Fine, I'll sleep up front. It's probably better anyway."
The first card that Cliff picked was the ace of spades, and he looked at me and said, "I want your bunk." And I said, "Fine, you take my bunk, I'll sleep up front. That's probably better anyway, you know."
Singer James Hetfield chose to sleep in a lounge near the back of the bus because he didn't want cold air seeping in from the windows, giving him a sore throat and affecting his singing voice. As the tour bus made its way through a remote area, it suddenly skid off the road and tumbled over, throwing a sleeping Cliff Burton through the window before landing on top of him, killing him instantly. As James Hetfield told an interviewer, "My throat was going bad, so I was asleep in the back lounge. The tour buses you see here are all metal-sided, but it was all windows on the side, and that was the main cause of death. It hit so-called black ice, skidded out and bounced once, and that's when he went through the window and the bus went right on him. It was pretty quick, and I know he didn't know what hit him.
He overcorrected to get back onto the road, and as he did, the back end came around this way, and it started chomp, chomp, chomp.
It's the sound of screeching brakes and being flipped around like a piece of clothes in a dryer.
Reports differ as to what exactly caused the bus to skid off the road. The bus driver claims that the bus hit a patch of black ice. However, James Hetfield was quite skeptical. After pulling himself from the wreckage, he walked back and forth along the road looking for the so-called patch of black ice, and was unable to find one. Police who investigated the scene were also unable to locate any patches of black ice on the road. Making matters worse, when the bus was being lifted by a crane so that paramedics could get to Cliff's body, the bus slipped and fell on Cliff a second time. A frustrated and confused James Hetfield explained, "Coming out and finding your buddy under the bus is not something you want to go through. Our first reaction was anger, one of the things we're good at. Why did this happen? Where's the driver? Let me smell your breath. I walked for miles looking for this black ice in my underwear when it's 20 below. There were screams from the crew who were still trapped in there, screaming in pain, broken collarbones, toes, all that."
What happened? You know, what's going on? You know, is this guy drunk or la la la? Oh, we hit some black ice. And I recall in my underwear, you know, and socks, walking for miles, looking for this black ice, walking back on. Where's this black ice? I don't see any black ice. And I wanted to kill this guy. I was gonna end him there.
James Hetfield initially accused the driver of being drunk, but when speaking about the incident years later, other members of the band discussed the possibility that the driver may have fallen asleep. Local detective Arnie Peterson also believes that this may have been the case, as he claimed that the skid marks left at the scene of the accident resemble those of other accidents where the drivers had indeed fallen asleep. However, the driver claims that he had previously slept and was well rested. Although James was skeptical about what he was told, the driver of another bus that was carrying Metallica's gear agreed with the testimony provided by the driver of the bus that crashed. The mystery may never be officially solved, as the driver was ultimately determined to be not at fault, and no charges were ever pressed against him. As guitarist Kirk Hammet explains, "It's one of those things you never learn the entire truth. We were all asleep when it happened. Who knows? Maybe the driver was asleep too." Number 9. Deviled Hammet. Have you ever had a sandwich that could take a bite out of you? Well, Kirk Hammet did. A deviled ham sandwich, to be exact. Although he didn't eat it, because he had recently become a vegetarian before recording Metallica's Master of Puppets. The sandwich had been thrown at him by someone in the crowd during a festival performance. The photograph on the back of the album provides visual proof that a sandwich did indeed take a bite out of Kirk Hammet.
Ha! Hey! Look at the sandwich! It's gonna bite you!
Ow! Damn sandwich took a bite out of me!
Oh!
As the guitarist explains, the back cover shot of me where I'm giving a dirty look to the camera, that was because I had just become a vegetarian back then, and we were at the Donington Festival. Someone threw a deviled ham sandwich from the audience, and it smashed right on my brand new Black Jackson Flying V, and I was so pissed. I looked over to the side, and I saw my guitar tech laughing, and I saw photographer Ross Halfin laughing, and I just gave them a dirty look, and then Ross took the shot, and that's the shot that's on the back of Master of Puppets. Which begs the question, did the person throw a deviled ham sandwich at Kirk Hammet because he was a vegetarian? Or was it because his last name is Hammet?
Smashing idea, man.
Oh! That really hurt! I'm gonna have a lump there, you idiot! Who throws a
sandwich?
Honestly.
Did you know
that I do all of the editing for these videos by myself? Yep, that's right, me, one person, including research, script writing, voiceovers, thumbnails, video editing, promotion. It's a lot of work and requires a full-time job for one person to handle, which I don't mind doing because I love being able to express my humor while also talking about the music that I enjoy. However, it would also be great to have some help improving my content, and that's where I need your help. The easiest way to support this channel is to click the like button. This will help the video get shown to more people. A better way to support this channel is to subscribe and hit the notification bell. This will help you get notified when we release new videos each week. And if you really want to make a big difference, check the description of this video for more ways that you can help this channel grow and support the creation of new content. If you like what we're doing, show us some love and let us know that you're out there. And let us know in the comments what your favorite album is. Perhaps we'll talk about it in a future video. Thank you all so much for your continued love and support. Number 10. Cliff Burton's Swan Song. While the debate rages on about whether or not Metallica stole riffs from their former guitarist Dave Mustaine, one song that does indeed include stolen riffs is Orion. Although the culprit in this case was still an active member of the band at the time, as bassist Cliff Burton decided to turn one of Kirk Hammet's guitar solos into a bass solo while Kirk was out of town. As Kirk explains, "I remember recording it in the studio, and then I left to go back to the East Coast and meet a girl or something. Cliff went back in the studio and used that area to put his own solo on it, but he played like half of my licks that were in the original solo. It was the weirdest thing. It wasn't really much of an issue for me because there were like 4 other guitar solos in that song. It wasn't like he took the only one." Cliff Burton wrote such memorable music for Orion that the song would become associated with his memory. It was played at his funeral in 1986 and would later be turned into a tribute to Metallica's late bassist during live performances. As Kirk continues, "For me, Orion was Cliff Burton's swan song. It was a great piece of music, and he'd written the whole middle section. It kind of gave us a view into what direction he was heading." Frontman James Hetfield would also have the notes of Cliff Burton's riff tattooed on his arm in memory of his friend and bandmate.
You know, besides my kids' names and all of the other, I mean, they've obviously all got meanings, but this one is pretty important. And then Cliff, you know, this is Clifford Lee Burton, and this is the middle bit to Orion, the bass part. Oh man. No, that's right.
Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed that video, you might also enjoy 10 Fun Facts About Load and Reload by Metallica.